Alright, I'm going to keep it short. This is the Taurus PT-111 Millennium Pro, however many names this thing has. And it's a total piece of junk. It's just a brick, really. It's vastly inferior to all your Glocks, Springfields, Smith & Wessons, whatever it is that you own. It's a waste of money, waste of time, made by dirty foreigners in bad factories, and I'm done. Do you think it worked? Did the snobs go away? Okay, let's go over here. Alright, and that right there is an excellent illustration of how awesome this gun really is. This is the PT-111 Pro in 9mm, and this gun has been sitting in my pocket for the past 3 months, unfired, uncleaned. The last time I went to the range was, I think, back in early December, and right now it is March the 3rd. So you can see that it's been collecting some lint up there in the trigger guard. All these little nooks and crannies have lint and dirt and crumbs and stuff, whatever falls in my pocket. And that's what I count on this pistol for. Take it out of my pocket, it fires. And I've been testing this particular gun for, I guess, 5 years now. This has been my carry gun. And you can kind of see some of the wear. I don't know if that's going to show up all that well. You can see that the bluing is starting to go on the edges. Across the top you can see, from abrasion or from, just sweat in my pocket or whatever, some of the finish is coming off. But this thing is mechanically perfect. 5 years ago, my wife and I decided to get our concealed carry licenses, and right away we needed to outfit the both of us with a good pistol. We wanted something in 9mm. We wanted something that was very shootable while remaining lightweight and concealable, and we wanted it to be reliable. What we ended up doing is, and we looked at all kinds of stuff. We looked at XDs, we looked at Glocks, and we ended up going with one of these, the Millennium, and we got a Taurus 709 Slim, which is a single stack. It's just a slimmer, smaller gun overall. It weighs a little bit less. And we tried out the both of them. In the end, we actually sold the 709 and got another one of these. And a lot of that is going to come up here in a second, why we did that. The Slim was smaller, it was more lightweight. It seemed to be a real winning combination for a CCW gun, but in our case, we decided to go for shootability instead of easy portability. This gun is so much easier to shoot, and I'll show you here in a second. Before I get started talking about the shootability of this gun, I'm just going to illustrate here. Okay, we have an empty chamber, empty magazine, and we're pointing down range. So everything is safe here. This gun, part of what makes it so shootable, aside from that little bit of extra weight over the 709, I believe this is 21 ounces unloaded versus the 709's 19 ounces unloaded. Aside from the little bit of extra weight, I think a lot of it comes down to the grip. The grip is a little bit wider than you're going to get on a Ruger LCP, LC9, and it has a very nice back strap that fills the palm really nicely. Easy to grip. My hands are not huge, but it still feels, quite nice. And my wife, who has, of course, smaller hands, she has no difficulty grabbing this, and she finds this very comfortable to shoot as well. It's an easy reach to the trigger. You can easily get the correct pad of your finger, whichever, however you do it. It's going to be pretty easy to get the trigger reach that you want. And when it comes to pointing, this has some kind of interesting sights. You may have seen these before on some other guns. They're not that common. You're probably used to the typical 3-dot, where you have 2 dots on the back sight, 1 dot on the front. This is what's called a Heine straight 8, and it is extremely easy. Excuse me, it's kind of hard with a camera, but very easy to point and very easy to get back on target, point at new targets. Once this thing recoils, it just drops right back down to where you want it. Very easy gun to shoot. Another part of this shootability is the trigger. The trigger is kind of weird for some people. I love it myself. What it is it is a single action, and it has a long take-up. So that right there, that's like basically nothing. It's just kind of freewheeling. Then you get to this point, and as soon as you apply, they say it's about 6 pounds of pressure. It feels like less than that. Once you apply the correct pressure, get a little bit of over travel, and the brake is very clean. It's not exactly like a 1911. That's going to be, of course, a much more fine-tuned weapon there, but it's still very crisp. Among all the polymer pistols, I prefer the Taurus triggers, their 24/7 triggers, and the one on this Millennium to any of the others. Springfield XD, the FNs, they don't even come close. Glock I like, but I still wouldn't say that it's as crisp as this. If you don't believe me, you should try it out. They really are amazing. And one of the weird things about this trigger system is that you get this double strike. So if you have fired, or if you have pulled the trigger and the round has not gone off, you get to go back into kind of a double action mode. So you can pull the trigger again to strike the primer. A lot of people rightly say that this is bad training, that if you have a hang fire or something like that, what you should do is just get it out of the gun. So the proper thing to do would be to rack the slide, get the round out, and then go back to firing. But I have actually tried it. It's kind of weird. I can't say that I would want to use it in any kind of defense situation, because it just kind of takes you back like, oh, this didn't fire. I don't have to clear it. I can pull this, and it does work. But like I say, it is weird. Now the neat thing is, once you have fired the gun, the recoil on this is just so manageable. And I have fired all kinds of power levels through this. I've fired some of the real racehorse kind of fast and heavy bullets. And this gun just eats them all up. There's no snap. It doesn't slap your trigger finger, which is one of the reasons why we got rid of the Taurus 709. That gun was so light and its recoil was so odd that it would hurt the trigger finger after maybe 3 shots. It was not a comfortable gun to shoot, and it was not one you wanted to take to the range and actually get training on. This, I can shoot this all day, and it just feels great. Everything kind of goes back, right into the top of the hand, and it immediately goes right back down to the target as long as you're holding it firmly. There's no need to resettle your hands after shooting. Like some of these lightweight guns or kind of overpowered guns, you'll see people that come up and then they have to kind of resettle their hand and take the second shot. This, I can just fire this as quickly as I want. And kind of the last thing on the buttons here, okay, we do have the thumb safety, which I actually like. A lot of people don't like these kinds of safeties. They prefer a backstrap safety or one of the trigger safeties like on the Glock. Myself, I really don't care. I like them all. And I do like thumb safeties a lot. Apparently, the original Millennium, before this Pro model, had some issues where this thumb safety did not actually block the firing pin, so the gun could fire while the safety was on. But this Millennium Pro, they fixed all that. This one, as long as you have, the Millennium Pro up into the G2 series, you're going to get a solid safety there. And the magazine release right here, it's pretty much flush with the side of the gun. Very easy to actuate. And sometimes actually this can be a bit of an issue. It's not bad. but it might sometimes be a little too easy to activate. I've had, like my son or my wife jump on my lap or something, and that will knock the magazine out. And I've gone to the range, and I go to pull the gun out and take a shot, and the magazine just drops right out. But I think that's kind of a fluke. So what are some good carry options for this? I've tried a few different ways to carry this gun, and so far my favorite is easily the pocket holster. This is my pocket gun. It's in there all the time that I'm wearing pants, and that's pretty much it. There are a couple of times that I have carried in a Serpa holster on the belt outside the waistband. I like this quite a bit. I'm not too comfortable with open carry. I've done it a few times. And if you do want to find the Serpa holster for the Millennium, it fits actually very nicely into the just the regular 24/7 one. This is a little bit of a long 24/7 holster designed for the 24/7 OSS, which I also have, and it fits really neatly, like so. And there it is. Now, one thing that I don't do is I won't carry this in the waistband. I've tried it a few times, and I just don't like it. I find it very uncomfortable. I'm 6'2", but I'm a skinny dude, and so it really just grates on me. So pretty much the only way you're going to see me carrying, or you won't see me carrying, is going to be in the pocket. As far as purse carry goes, ladies, is there ever a gun light enough for your purse? I just want to know that. Probably not. This one is going to be a little bit heavier than some of the other options, like the the LC9 or the LCP or one of those other guns like that, or the Taurus Slim again. And part of that is going to be that you're carrying maybe more rounds. You could download this, and it's just going to be a little bit lighter than a Slim or one of the other guns. But if you are loaded up, that is a good bit of extra mass. After the sheer shootability of this gun, this is the aspect that I'm most excited to tell you about. This thing is crazy reliable. It will eat pretty much any kind of ammo that you want to put through it. You hear all the time about various guns that won't like Winchester white box because it's underpowered, or you get into some of the high defense stuff that breaks the gun apart because it's too overpowered. This will devour anything. It'll take any kind of ogive. So Full Metal Jacket, of course, was going to feed very nicely. If you have some of the semi-wad cutter kinds of shapes like the Hornady XTPs, this is going to feed them perfectly. This has extracted and stripped off the magazine any kind of ammo that I've put through it. It does not care. It'll properly recoil, extract everything. The only difficulties that I've had in the firing process with this gun were a couple of light primer strikes, and let me explain how some of those came to be. I did try some hand loads, and I was using CCI, I think it was number 500 primers. I can't remember if that's small rifle or small pistol, but whatever the small pistol ones are, those cups are a little bit thick for a striker-fired gun. This is striker-fired, no hammer. And a Glock typically has a very strong primer hit. It has a very strong striker. This one seems to be a little bit weak, and sometimes there can be stuff kind of gunking up the striker channel. So with the case of those particular primers, I did have failures to fire. I stopped using those primers. I switched over to Federal, and that problem went away. I have had another couple of problems. I think I had some crud in that striker channel from the gun being very dirty. I have carried this gun in my pocket out hiking, and I'm talking about going way into the backwoods, like a 26-mile trek, and this gun is in my front pocket. It's getting sweaty, it's getting dirty, it's getting sandy, all kinds of, scree is getting in my pocket. And there were a couple of times that I went to fire that first shot, and light primer strike, nothing really happened. I pulled the trigger the second time because I remembered that this gun actually has that feature. It took me a second, but I pulled again, and then pop, it went off. So that would be And that's only happened, maybe 3 times with this gun. Overall, I would say reliability is just through the roof good. Same with my wife's Millennium, and I turned a friend on to his, and he's had no problems either. And the really cool thing is that it will do this right out of the box. Some guns require a break-in. This one apparently does not. Like with any other firearms, there are going to be some drawbacks, and this is no exception. It has a few, and probably the biggest one is going to be the sights. The sights have a kind of a peculiar problem. Like I mentioned, I love the sight picture on this. Very fast to reacquire the sights when you're firing rapidly. I like the 2-dot setup. That works great. The thing that I have a problem with is the vertical alignment on these. Somebody at the factory really goofed. Most guns are going to be set up for, somewhere around like 10 yards, 25 yards. The vertical alignment, it's going to print the bullet, as long as you're holding everything correctly, it's going to put the bullet right on that vertical plane where the 2 sights line up. Okay, that's pretty standard. That's what most of us have seen when we've gone shooting. Some guns, some very fine guns, are set up for what they call a 6 o'clock setup, so that the bullet actually hits a little bit high. I have a friend who has a 1911 Kimber that does that, and he can hit anything with it. However, this is a 12 o'clock gun, which I think is just an error. There's no reason to have that. The bullet is going to impact below where your sights are actually aiming. Your sights are going to be covering what you hit, which is just daft. I don't understand it at all. You can see that the top of the sight, it's all silver here. That's because I shaved it down. I took 2 millimeters off the top of that, and that pretty well fixed the problem. It still hits just slightly low, but it's pretty good. And now I can actually connect at further ranges, like say 25 yards. And up until I did that, it really wasn't a 25-yard gun. So out of the box, I'd say it's a 10-yard gun. And this kind of gets into another issue here. This is very sensitive to how you hold it. It's going to be perfectly precise no matter how you hold it. It's going to make very tight groups as long as you're just consistent with how you're holding your hand. Even if it's kind of loose, it's still going to, cycle the gun, and it's going to print very small groups. But it's not necessarily going to hit your point of aim. If you kind of limp wrist it, it tends to go a little bit left or right, and I don't know why that is. If it's something to do with the barrel, if it's just mechanics through here. I've fired all kinds of pistols, and I haven't encountered that problem really before. So I think it's just it's unique to this. So what you want to do when you fire it is you do want to grasp it pretty firmly. You want to have all the muscles through here contracted, almost like you're about to take a hit. And probably the last real drawback to this gun is the lack of aftermarket. There's going to be all kinds of neat stuff for Glocks, for Springfields, for the M&Ps, and this has none of that. This has factory magazines and a couple of holsters like that Serpa. I think there's a Phobos, and pretty much anything else you're having to jerry-rig. It's there really isn't anything out there. You're very, very limited. No extra magazines, no sights. What you buy is what you get. You're kind of stuck with it. I'm going to end this video with a couple of practical demonstrations. First off, I'm going to take some fast shots at this. I'm going to do the Mozambique drill, just like I did here, except I'm going to go a little bit faster. Instead of drawing from my pocket and maybe having a little bit of a wonky hold on the grip, I'm going to make sure that I am, very tightly holding onto this thing. I'm going to put 2 in the chest, 1 in the head. I'll do that a few times. And then what we're going to do is we're going to back off. I'm going to put this as far out as I can get it. And this is not a very long range that I'm sitting at right here. I think probably the longest I can get is about like 15 yards or so. But I'm going to do a slow fire accuracy test. Whoop, that way, at that dot. Okay, that could have gone a little bit better. I apologize. Now granted, it is a subcompact that we're shooting. It's at a stepped off 19 yards. I thought it was about 15, but it's actually 19. So it's, you know, it's kind of getting up there. And what other excuses do I have? Really, I don't think it's the gun. It was probably just my shooting. I've definitely shot it better before. But one last thing that I forgot to mention, of course, this is the old version right here. This is back from, I don't know how long this thing's been around. But yeah, I bought this, like I say, 5 years ago. And there's a new version since then. It's called the G2. Now, I actually bought this gun specifically because I didn't want the G2. I have since actually tried out the G2. At least, you know, just dry firing in the store or whatever. I didn't actually, you know, take it out and fire it. It seems to be pretty much the exact same gun. They've added a trigger safety, which was the thing I was trying to avoid by getting this old one. I just wanted a plain old safety. Aside from that, the only real differences are cosmetic or in the grip. The grip has kind of a stippled thing going on instead of the checkering like you see right here. This has very positive checkering. It grabs the hand really well. And the new version is a bit smoother. It's stippled, not checkered. And the grip shape is a little bit different. Now, in the store at least, you know, not actually firing it with any kind of recoil going on, I like the feel of it. It was great. It fit very well in the hand. It had a little bit of extra palm swell, which I liked. It fit quite nicely into the palm of the hand, or the kind of heel of the hand right there. And oh, you can actually see the checkering in my palm. That's cool. But yeah, the G2 just has those couple of features, and it does have adjustable sights. So maybe that can help dial out that whole vertical problem that I was telling you about, where bullets want to hit low with the Millennium. You know, maybe you can adjust it enough that it'll fix that. They are polymer sights, which are not my favorite, and they're not going to be as smooth as these old ones. These old Heinies, these things are very slick. They go in and out of the pocket really easily. I like that. But yeah, I think the G2 is a winner, and you can get them for as low as I've seen $200 for that thing. That is amazing. I would not pass that up. If you're on a budget and you know you're not really concerned about what the name of a gun is, you don't feel like people will laugh you out of the range or something, then I can't see how you would miss that deal. It's and pretty consistently they sell for about, I think, $270. I think the MSRP for about $350 or so. So really, you can't go wrong. These things are great.